The Dollmaker's Curse. Lila Hartley stood in front of the old workshop, her auburn hair cascading in loose waves around her shoulders, framing her heart-shaped face with an understated elegance. Her bright green eyes sparkled with curiosity, hinting at a depth of emotion beneath her gentle exterior. She had a quiet beauty, the kind that lingered in the memory, drawing people in without effort. She had received news of her estranged grandmother's death, along with an unexpected inheritance. This forgotten dollmaker's shop nestled in a small town known for its eerie folklore. Despite her initial reluctance, curiosity pulled her inside. As days passed, Lila immersed herself in the craft, finding solace in the rhythmic motions of sewing and carving. She decided to create a doll inspired by her childhood best friend, Mia, who had mysteriously vanished years ago. Lila envisioned a doll with flowing chestnut hair and bright blue eyes, just like Mia's. That night, she worked late into the hours, her fingers deftly stitching the doll's features, but as she completed the final touches, a chill swept through the room. The doll seemed to shimmer, almost as if it breathed. Lila dismissed it as fatigue and set the doll aside. The following day, strange things began to occur. Lila noticed the doll had shifted positions on the shelf, its glass eyes appearing more lifelike. A voice echoed in her mind, a faint whisper calling her name. It felt familiar, yet unsettling. Determined to finish her creations, Lila continued to work on more dolls, each one taking on the characteristics of someone from her past. A doll resembling her cool schoolteacher, Mrs. Thornton, was next. As she crafted the doll, memories flooded back, days filled with humiliation and fear. That night, Lila dreamt of Mrs. Thornton. In the dream, the doll stood in front of her, its mouth moving silently. When Lila awoke, she found the doll lying on her pillow, its gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. As Lila delved deeper into her grandmother's legacy, she found an old journal hidden beneath the floorboards. The pages were filled with her grandmother's writings about the art of doll making, but they grew darker with each entry. It spoke of curses and restless spirits that inhabited the dolls, each tied to a significant moment in the maker's life. Each doll captures a piece of the soul, one entry warned. They can bring comfort, but they can also unleash terror. Haunted by the thought, Lila began to question her creations. Was Mia's doll a vessel for her spirit? Could Mrs. Thornton's spirit seek revenge through her likeness? With dread settling in, she decided to confront the dolls, demanding answers. One evening, Lila gathered all the dolls in the center of the workshop, her heart pounding. She lit candles and asked if anyone wished to speak. The room fell eerily silent, the air electric with anticipation. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and shadows danced along the walls. The dolls' eyes seemed to glisten in the candlelight. Lila felt a rush of energy as the dolls began to tremble, their heads turning to face her in unison. Mia's doll, in a voice that echoed from the depths of Lila's memory, whispered, "Help me." Panic seized Lila. "What happened to you, Mia?" "I'm trapped," the doll replied, her voice a haunting melody. "You must finish what you started. Only then can I be free." As Lila struggled with the revelations, she found herself drawn into the lives of the dolls, each one reflecting a pain or trauma from her past. She learned that her grandmother had been cursed by her own creations, each doll a reminder of someone lost or wronged. To break the curse, Lila had to face her fears and confront the unresolved past that had tied her to the dolls. Determined to free Mia, she sought out the details of her friend's disappearance. Piecing together clues, Lila discovered that Mia had been abducted, and her spirit had been bound to the doll as a result of her grandmother's desperation to preserve her essence. In a frenzy, Lila decided to create one last doll, herself. This doll would embody her fears and regrets, allowing her to confront everything she had avoided. She poured her soul into the doll, stitching her memories of love, loss, and guilt into its fabric. As she completed the doll, a storm began to brew outside, the wind howling like the spirits seeking release. Lila placed the doll among the others, and the air crackled with energy. As the clock struck midnight, Lila felt a surge of power and fear. The dolls moved, their voices harmonizing in a haunting melody. "Set us free," they chanted, their faces shifting with anguish and sorrow. The atmosphere thickened as shadows coiled around Lila. With a deep breath, she shouted, "I confront my past! I release you all!" The dolls responded with a cacophony of cries, their spirits swirling around her, each one seeking liberation. Lila felt her own fears rise. Memories of guilt and despair intertwined with the essence of the dolls. But as she stood her ground, she felt a warmth envelop her, a sense of acceptance washing over her. With a blinding flash, the dolls exploded in a kaleidoscope of light. Lila shielded her eyes. And when she opened them, the workshop was silent. The dolls lay in shards, remnants of their once living forms, scattered across the floor. In the center of the workshop stood a new doll, her own likeness, radiant and free. As she touched the doll, a wave of warmth surged through her, filling the void of loss and regret. In that moment, Lila felt an inner strength blossom, an acceptance of both her beauty and her past. She was not just a figure of sorrow, she was a woman capable of embracing her journey, her spirit shining brighter than ever. With the dawn breaking outside, Lila stepped out of the workshop, the air fresh and filled with possibility. She knew she had to let go of the past to embrace her future, the subtle grace of her presence illuminating the path ahead. As she walked away, the workshop faded behind her, a ghost of the memories and fears that once haunted her. Lila carried the strength of the past within her, a macabre diva reborn, embodying both the grace of her journey and the beauty of her newfound freedom.